Welcome to the Isabella Banks YouTube channel. I'm Wizzy, your royal pug and part-time shade assassin. What are we talking about today? I thought it would be a great idea to go back and have a review of the confessions of a female founder. I'm finding the conversations that Megan is having with these girl bosses quite interesting, educational as well. I've seen sites to Megan that I thought were there, but it's such a delight to know that she is such a girl's girl. If you have listened to episode 3 of the Confessions of a Female Founder, which is titled Building Your Brand Brick by Brick with Highbrow Hippies, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. With me today, I have got the one, the only Sussex love. Say hello, Sussex Club.
Hello, Squatty family, my brothers and sisters in Sussex.
It has been such a time this weekend, especially with the Sussexes in New York. But today's conversation is about that podcast. She began the podcast by letting us know how she and Katie met. And Katie, in answering the question that Megan asked her to tell us how they met, she did say that Serge, he was the one who referred Katie to Megan after Megan had tried to dye her hair by herself.
Out of a box kit, yes.
I is such a relatable thing as
Yes,
well.
because every one of us has done that at one time or another.
Yes. Anyway, that was how they began the conversation, and I just laughed. I laughed my ears off when I heard that because I can't tell you the amount of times I tried to dye my hair myself, and I end up looking like what I didn't expect to look like. Or I'm never really satisfied with the job, so I could totally relate to that experience that she had. And Katie tells us how she opened her salon 9 months before the pandemic hit.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, 9 months, like literally, it's like you're just beginning to sit down after doing all the running around of putting the salon together, doing the opening, getting the people through the door, s- getting into a routine. You're just beginning to think, okay, I think we're going to be okay. And then, boom.
What poetic irony. 9 months. So you kidding me? At the end of 9 months, you can deliver a child.
Yeah,
It's like she
actually.
was ready to give birth, and right as she's giving birth, the world around her collapses.
That is a great point. I didn't actually think about it like that, but that's very true. Some of these things is quite symbolic, don't you think? Let's
Yep,
see what's going to come out of this venture
a
we're
new
going.
child is going to arrive.
Then the pandemic hit, and I think that a lot of people who had the same experience. I remember myself, I was just at the point where I was thinking to myself that I've established myself in my legal career. So now what do I want to do? I want to see what I can do to elevate myself. So I wanted to do maybe a master's or something. When I checked out how much it was going to cost, like 7 to 8 thousand pounds,
Hmm.
I thought, oh, don't want to take a loan. I would rather just work for the money. So I came up with the
Right.
idea of taking up some contract work so that
Hmm.
I could supplement my income to pay for this thing, this course
Hmm.
that I want to do. And I had reached out to some agencies. Anyway, I got a position and I had got my first contract, which was a great, fantastic paying position in a fantastic law firm as well, only for the pandemic to hit.
Well, for me, it was the opposite. The pandemic really did not affect me that way because my job was essential. I was working in a hospital.
Okay.
and then also in a acute care center. So I switched over to the acute care center because it was a lot of outpatients that would come in, and also the other side was the people that was inpatients. So I was almost, the only thing that changed was the procedures, and that was mostly the mask and the gloves. Our problem was a different problem, getting the mask and the gloves, because this incompetent person wasn't getting it. So a lot of times you had to find that your own company had to find alternatives, just like the
Mm,
governors of different states in the United States had to find alternatives to getting the masks and the gowns, and especially the
yeah,
mask, was the most important things. I
yeah.
still remember the governor of Maryland was married to, I think it was the governor of Maryland, was married to, a Republican was married to, and he couldn't even get it. He's a Republican governor. He was married to a Chinese lady, I believe, who
Oh
had
my
a
God.
family in China, and she arranged the shipment of it from China
Oh,
to Maryland. So that's how bad it was here. So we had a whole other things that we were going through.
okay. And Megan goes on to ask Katie how she coped, like business wise, after the pandemic hit. Megan highlighted the fact that Katie had a community around her. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought of this point and I made a note of it because I think a lot of people who are potential business people maybe think of an idea to do. Oh, I want to be a hairdresser, or I want to be, I don't know, a tailor, or I want to be a fashion entrepreneur, sell dresses, handbags, shoes, all that kind of thing. But they don't really have a community before they actually start the business. It's a difficult one because I don't know whether it is possible to have a community before you start the business. But in Katie's case, she had already been working with other people. So she had her own, should I say, following, people who had been following her throughout her career.
She was unique because she had a following first, being
Yeah.
from HBCU, which is
Yeah.
a community of women who network and continue to network after they're out of school, out of their communities for their community and other things as well. Plus the fact that she had a network of clients that were some very important people. And black women, we come at it a different way. We come at things with community in mind. So that's how we approach it. So that's how she approach, which is what I found was different between her and the white female entrepreneurs, because they didn't have that community. You heard one after another saying how they were alone and they had to fit, you know what I mean? Black people, women had the experience of not having outer network supporting, giving them money and stuff. They had to build their own network for everything. And she had different networks. And so the interesting thing to me was how she used that to, and they protected her as well as she protected them. She went through all these different things for her employees, trying to make sure they got paid, and came up with different ways throwing stuff over the fence.
Yeah.
But they also protected her. They protected her and shielded
Made
her
sure
against
that she
things.
was good as well. Wasn't it funny how Katie was just saying something offhandedly about how she was single at the time, and instantly Megan lost focus.
Like any girlfriend would. What did you say,
Instantly.
ma'am?
She's
She
like,
had to catch
oh,
herself.
who is that?
She had to catch herself because she was like, "What boyfriend?" That's a typical girl, which I thought was so cute. That was a typical girlfriend response. Cause what? Cause last month you didn't have no man. You ain't mentioned nobody last. When did this happen? You know what I mean? That was so funny to me. That was a typical girlfriend response. And I was
Honestly,
so I thought that was very cute.
with that, I love the way they wove the concepts that they were discussing in the podcast in some like personal anecdotes and then some business tips as well. Like the next one,
Mm-hmm.
which was that Highbrow Hippie began as a blog,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of like the way Megan's business began. I think that
Right.
Megan's business began as a blog on her website.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's began like a blog where she talked about fashion, food, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the black female, black American female thing, because Megan often says, if you don't have a seat at the table, set up your own table.
Yeah, but it is also for people who are interested in digital marketing as well. or just
Mhm.
any business as well. It's a
Mhm.
good concept to have that,
Mhm.
because a lot of people feel like if you don't begin big, oh, you start your business and you start a 20 aisle supermarket, for instance,
Mhm.
and it doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily have to be that. You can start much smaller and build
I
it up and
love
grow it.
I love the way she said step by step. It took me a
Yeah,
while, but I did it the right way. I
yeah,
built a strong foundation. I love that because that is the key, a strong foundation, and you build it step by step, building
yeah.
each foundation, each block upon the other, and
Mm.
it'll last. Yeah. And I'm loving that she said it, because especially for, I hate to say it again, but black entrepreneurs, that's pretty much what we got to do.
Megan moves on to talk about her hair, how she had to learn how to take care of her hair while she
Hmm.
was in Northwestern.
Hmm.
And the analogy she gave of the flat iron and the stove, when she said it, I was howling. I laughed so hard I could not stop laughing. But I could also feel like what she felt like in that instance, when people, when she said the other girls didn't understand what was happening, and they were like, what is that smell?
Of
It's
burning
almost
hair, yeah.
of burning hair. It's
Hmm.
almost like almost every black girl who has been in
Hmm.
that kind of environment has had
Hmm.
to learn that feeling and how to navigate it.
And yet, Megan, her critics were trying to say she didn't understand what being black was, and neither
Mm,
but understood her blackness. You know what I mean?
mm,
Yet she had black girl experiences. Even on her website, she has gel to lay down your edges.
yes.
So that critique, to me, I would always say not true. That was just propaganda to attack her and turn black people against her, to say
Mm,
that she didn't acknowledge that side and she didn't understand that side, and blah blah blah, which was not true. There's interview after interview where she would talk about her mother with pride, and she would always mention the nose ring and the dreads,
yeah.
and say
Yeah.
how beautiful her mother was. So it was all about propaganda and things. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then she asked Katie how she figured her own hair out. I found it quite interesting, just going back of what you just said now about the propaganda that was around Megan, that she didn't understand her blackness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there are layers to this thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like sometimes we are a bit too sensitive when we're talking about certain things, and we
Mm-hmm.
rush to jump down the throats of people who are trying to make sense of it all, because there are layers to this thing. What do I mean? For instance, when you are with someone who says, I can tell when there's a mixed race person and the person
Mm-hmm.
was brought up by their black parent as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
being brought up by their white parent. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
in Katie's case and in Megan's case, funny enough, they went to schools where they were mostly the nominal black person in their group. Like I think the high school Megan went to was mostly white.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a negative against
I
Megan.
think Katie too, because she had a Jamaican parent
Yeah,
when
she
she
had
came to this
Jamaican
country.
parents,
Yeah, so
but the
she
town
she
where she was living in,
was
she and her
mostly black.
brother were two out of four people,
Hmm.
four black people in the place.
Yeah.
But this is why I say there are layers to this conversation. It's
Hmm.
for someone who is being non-critical, it's
Hmm.
also something to look at. Like, okay, so what do children who have to go to mostly white schools experience, and what is their outlook? Is it
It's
changed by any means by the fact that they have to grow up around white people, as opposed to when you go to a school where you have more black people and you feel more confident in your blackness, and you have and imbibe more of the black culture for having been around more black people. Not that it's a
well,
negative,
well,
it's just a conversation to be had
but
about
it's
what that is
also
like.
another subtle difference that we need to talk about. It's
Mm.
also if you had for the women.
Yeah.
Halle Berry is an exception, but usually the difference in the biracial black woman is if she had a black mother or a white mother. It is a
Yeah.
difference. If she
Yeah.
has a
There is a
black mother,
difference. Yeah.
she is more in tune with her blackness to
Yeah.
her because she had a black mother. Halle Berry is an exception. She had a white mother, but her white mother was a very loving mother. But when they asked Hallie who did she uh, uh, who did she associate herself more with, and how does she look at herself? She didn't say I look at myself as biracial. She said I looked at myself as a black woman
Mm-hmm.
because I related more to the black side of my family. They accepted me more. I understood it better. I felt more natural. And my mother, this I'll give her mother credit. When she asked her mother what she thought about that, her mother said, "You are a black woman. When the world sees you, they will see a black woman.
Mm.
So you need to understand that." So her mother had enough insight to understand that the world was going. She didn't say, "Well, try to be party." She was like, "No, the world will see you as a black woman, and that is
Yeah.
how they will respond to you." So her mother was a unique white woman because usually white women don't have any clue about that,
She
and it's
had
a
the
lot of
depth to understand what
yes.
was needed in the situation, which not a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
have. What is connected to that conversation is the feeling of not really feeling fully a part of any of those two communities, not fully
Mm-hmm.
uh I don't want to say accepted, because when you walk into a room of black people as maybe a biracial person, they recognize
Mm-hmm.
you're a daughter of so and so. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes down to it at the back of their mind, they still have that thought in their mind that, how do you know? You are, you still have white blood, so you can't fully know. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
the same when you go to the white side and they look at you, and every time you open your mouth, it's just like, how can you know you're a black person? But I'm
Mm-hmm.
white too.
Well, in our country, we had the one drop rule.
Yeah,
So no matter how light you are, you could look white. You could look white and pass white. As soon as they discover you're black, you're in the nigger section. They
yeah,
had a one drop rule for blackness in this country. So they didn't look at you as mixed. The white people saw a black person like, and her mother, Hallie's mother, knew that, which is why she said to her, they're gonna look at you as a black woman because she knew
mm,
that's what her race would look at her as, and she
mm,
told her that. You know what I
mm,
mean? And that's true. And I have a white friend, a mixed friend who had a white mother, and she said that her family, her white family, didn't accept her. They disowned her when they got married, and then only when the father left, they accepted the mother back, but they still didn't accept the black children.
you
So
see,
she didn't feel close to her mother. Her mother couldn't help her adjust to being that because her mother was white. So it's layers, as you were saying.
yeah, yeah. I say that to say because it's a perfect segue into the next conversation that she had, which I think was brilliant conversational technique by Megan, when because she said it and she got Katie to say it without actually making a big deal out of it, which was the fact that she never really thought about her race
Right.
until she got to the salon where she found a job. And it wasn't until she went in thinking she was going to be a colorist, and she didn't think anything of the job until she got there. She found out that she was the only black person there. And she asked them, did anyone ever graduate to be or get promoted to being a
Mm-hmm.
colorist?
Mm-hmm.
There hadn't been anyone who had done that before.
Well, it goes back to her mindset when she said, anything I decided to do, I
Mm,
just went for it. I never thought about the race because I already knew it was going to be difficult. So I just set my goal and I went for it. So that's the same mindset she had. She wasn't thinking about, well, should I go into this field because ain't no black people? She didn't think about that. This is the field I want. I'm going for this. And that's the mindset that we have to have because we're not going to be accepted in most of the things that are white controlled anyway. So, it was in her mindset already that she wasn't going to be thinking about how many black people are, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I also think her environment has something to do with it, which is where I'm going with this, in the
Hmm.
sense that having been among white people for the longest time, um, somehow it kind of it like okay, let's flip it around and say she had, was it college years, had been spent around mostly black people. Her
Yes.
consciousness would have been much stronger going into that environment. She would still have the mindset that she can achieve anything she wants to, but she will also be conscious of the fact that, oh, hang on a second. Not a lot of black people make it in this kind of salon to the colorist title here.
But at the same time,
Mm,
she felt more. She said she felt stronger and more of a sisterhood that she never felt before with those black women. So the person that she was just reinforced in a way, but it didn't change her mindset of how she just was a go getter. You understand what I mean? It just combined the two things together. So
mm,
still, when she went for something, she still wasn't thinking, in my opinion, oh,
mm.
it's going to be different. You know what I mean? She just had more of a sense of herself and self pride being with those black women, seeing the black strength and creativity and intelligence. She
She
bonded
was
with
the
them,
only
but that,
black person.
huh?
She was the only black
No, I'm
person.
talking about when she went to the sorority with the HBCU where she had all those black.
Right,
Remember, she said how, oh, I felt my sister. Oh, this is, oh, I felt home, and you know what I'm saying. Even though she
right.
had been with all the white people, she immediately felt home and she got stronger. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? But
mm,
this person that she was all these years did not change. Her outlook didn't change. She still went into self thinking, I'm going to do this. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
You would
Okay, let
think
me
she
turn
would
it
have thought of,
around.
okay,
For like for you, for instance,
okay.
you have working in a hospital. You must have been many times the minority in the
Mm-hmm.
room.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, for physical therapy, there was
Mm,
no black people in physical therapy. So right from the beginning, because
mm,
people would say to me when I was training in the hospitals as a student, "Are you physical therapy? They don't
mm.
have any black people." You know what I mean?
Right.
And the white women that were my supervisors sometimes felt really like it was an affront to them to have a black assistant, that we weren't up to standard. I had one even that reported me to the surgeon and said, because she wanted to get rid of me. Yeah, and she called, and he, to his credit, he didn't just take her word. He came down and he saw what we were doing. He talked to my patients, and they explained to him how, oh yes, she told me we should be glad that you are a surgeon, even though you had this extensive program, because it's better to have a surgeon that cares than one that doesn't. And she takes us through the program, and she makes the nurse give us the pain medicine before the exercise. And after he did all that, he went back to her. I don't know what he said to her, but she left me alone. You know what I mean? But we were always, I always, from my field, I was always aware that this is a space that they did not expect me in and did not want me in. So,
That's what
that
I'm talking about. That
yeah,
consciousness at the back of your
yeah,
mind
yeah.
when you have, because you've got a lot of black people with a lot of black experiences, and whether you know it or not, those conversations are being recorded in your consciousness.
Hmm.
So you're walking into a lot of these spaces with that knowledge and consciousness. It's not like you're intimidated by it.
Right,
It's not
right.
like it stops you, but
Hmm.
you are better prepared, I would
Hmm.
say, because you've heard it, you've seen other people
Yeah.
experiencing it. So
Hmm.
it almost even prepares you, because it's like you're steeling yourself against the eventual sneak attack.
Right.
That-
And also, she was from Jamaica. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And that was a different type of a mindset. She got here when she was a child, but I think she was 10, 11 years old. And what did she say when she had lost her job? And her mother said, you know what you're gonna do? You can't stay here. Like my Jamaican mama would say, you can't stay here. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So
yeah.
she didn't have the same mindset and same experience with white people, which is probably why she didn't think of first, oh, how I'm going to deal with these white people. But at being from this country, we've
Mm.
always had to deal with it. So it was always in our mind because we were trained, you got to be two, three times better than them to get in.
I would say that I would agree with you 110% because I didn't realize I was black until I left Nigeria.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, but it's true because there's one thing that I have gotten from our conversations in that our experience of blackness and being African in descent is
Mhm,
different,
mhm,
completely different.
mhm,
Just like what I said to you now, like I didn't realize I was black until I left Nigeria. Like I knew I've got my black color,
right.
but I didn't realize that anyone would look at me and think that there was a problem with my color.
Iman
Until,
said the same thing. The model Iman, she said the same thing.
yeah, that's the same for a lot of the people in the UK
Hmm.
that they didn't come here as people as slaves. They came over as immigrants. A
Hmm.
lot of them from like Nigeria and a lot of the African countries. We of course we've got the refugees, but the difference in how we came also informs how we were able to handle the black issues that we experienced. Maybe this is the reason why we've got the Nana Akuas of the world of GB News,
Oh God. Mm.
and the reason why we've got the Kemi Badenochs who feel like, oh, they gave me the permission to come here, so they did me a favor, as opposed to Americans who were like, no, I didn't want to come here. You stole me away.
And we built this country for free.
And we built this country for free. Do you see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
difference in
It's
how we
different.
came informs our mindsets in
Exactly.
how we are dealing with the white people.
It also interfered with the way we responded and related to each other, the Africans and the Black Americans, the immigrants from the different Black countries and the Black Americans. It informed and it interfered with the way we perceived each other and the way we interacted with each other. The white man had an influence on that too.
Yeah. No, I get that. But the just dialing it back because of what we're doing, the
Yeah,
podcast.
got you, got you.
Um, I'm just talking about that bit just
Yeah.
because of how I'm listening to the
Hmm.
conversation
Hmm.
and I'm listening to how Katie is saying, oh, she went through life without thinking about her color and it being an issue. And I thought, a lot of people would listen to this and it would just go straight over their heads because you don't think deeply
Hmm.
about why we are here, why
Right.
we're here in the race war
Hmm.
with the white people. A lot because a lot of people will perhaps maybe the typical Black American will be thinking, "What are you talking about? Of course you're Black. Of course you should know." But the experiences are not the same.
No,
Is what
no.
I'm saying,
Oh, I
and it
do. I
informs
understand
the
what you.
mindset of
Yeah.
Megan. It informs the mindset of Katie, for instance.
Yep.
Yeah, so I just found that quite illuminating. And
Yeah.
I found it interesting how Megan makes a point without actually making it a deal that she's making a point. Because that was a point she just made there, and it was quite a big one.
Mhm. Yes. I love the way she does that, you know.
Yeah,
Just kind of eases it in there because she's very smooth. She's gotten a
yeah,
little better at this and she's got more confident. I like it.
yes. People forget she's just a human being,
Yeah.
you know? She's just a human being. And she's a human being who likes to be good at what she does.
Yes. Yes. As her mother is, as you learn more about
Yeah,
Gloria. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because Gloria went back to school and graduated college, you know.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Um, Also, in talking about this, Megan asked Katie about how she decided to leave New York, which was the salon that she first started with, and then moved to California. And Katie said, well, I just one day felt like I was cold and I decided to leave. And I thought to myself, you're Leo. but that's so me. That is very me.
She was really, I think they overlooked the fact that she was saying she loved this person that she felt was iconic that took her under her wing
Mm,
in New York. And I think part of the reason that she stayed went because I think she was past that point that she was just ready to go. But she stayed, I think, because of the loyalty. But then the weather, her being from Jamaica and her being a black person in that
mm.
cold weather, she was feeling like, you know what, I gotta get out of here. I can't take this no more. This
I
is like
can't take this no more.
it's like me going back to Ohio after living on the island for 16 years. I went back there in the wintertime. I said, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? What was I thinking? You know what I mean? And so, she was like she was ready to get rid of that and just make that full change. But she was already ready for a change. But it was kind of like a metaphor of, she really was ready to go. But the cold was enough to just kick her in the gear.
Absolutely. And the funny thing also was Megan picked up on that and she was like, yeah, it's funny you decided to leave the place that was not serving you. But I heard that, Megan. I
Mhm.
heard that. Almost like you can step away from the royal family.
Yep, time to go. Time to go. I got to go. I got to go. See you.
And she decided to have the conversation or ask her about when she decided that she would be an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And I found this would be slept on, is what I was thinking about. But I found it to be gold because she said the level of self confidence that Katie has needs to be studied. Because she was just like, well, it's something that I knew that I could do with my eyes closed. I knew that I've already had contact with these people who would support the business. And so after doing the numbers, I decided that I would go for it. And I thought, that is so brave. I don't even know if she realizes how brave that is because she didn't come to start her business with a cupboard type of business. No, she got her business started in a relatively like great, should I say medium setup? You start with a medium setup. So that means like an expenditure of maybe 100,000 or 200,000 pounds, I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
I, I think also that you're more structured of a person. She's organized and she's functional and she's clearly very intelligent. But it's also her mindset. Again,
Mm, mm,
she doesn't have that fear into going into space because she's confident in what she wants to do. Like she said, that's how I feel about therapy. I can
mm,
do it in my sleep. They
mm.
could put me anywhere with any white woman that's trying to pick me apart, and I would do it, and she wouldn't be able to rattle me, and I would still do my job, do it to the level that I wanted to do it at, because I went into it knowing I know how to do this. I like doing this, and I'm good at it, and I love therapy, and I've always been good at it. I am proud of the fact that after 40 years, never had in 5 states not one letter of reprimand or discipline or complaint. So once it comes with it when you had to deal with these people telling you you can't do it. You know what I
That's
mean?
amazing.
Your skin is built up, and if you have people reinforcing you, like she
Mm,
had, and like I had, my father, for example, he never once said, he was a different generation. I don't know where he came. He never once said, well, maybe you should focus on getting a husband and be none of that. When he saw I was good at school, he was championing me to go as far as I can. Use that. I'm so glad you have a brain. I prayed that you would be smart. You know what I mean? Because he
that's
wanted me
lovely.
not to use my feminine wiles. He wanted me to use my brain.
Katie talks about how she came up with the name Highbrow Hippie, which was a perfect segue for Megan to talk about how American Riviera was the first name she came up with, where it turned out to sound more like word salad. And I thought, Megan, why am I saying her name that way? It's just because it sounded like trolling to me. Megan is in a new era of trolling. There's nothing anyone can tell me because that term word salad, I know it's not a new term, but it's the term that the British media constantly have been using against her. Like anytime she says something, writes an
Oh yeah,
article.
somebody told her that they said that criticism. Yeah. It's
Then
just
they
like
say
how when
it's
she was,
word salad.
yeah, like when she did that. What is that? I forget if she wrote something or whatever it was, and she referred to the Daily Mail as the Daily Fail.
Fail.
So I know she, especially, I think she, or if not her, Harry,
Yeah.
is in tune to the Sussex squad. I
Hmm.
think they do more of that than listening to what the British complaints are. I think they may look at the Sussex squad and see our responses. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? To see what's going on. Because when she said Daily Fail, I said, yep, she's looking at some of the Sussex squad stuff.
So Megan asked her, what was the other thing? So when she decided to become an entrepreneur, how did she make the decision on what she was going to be selling? And Katie dropped a golden nugget here. She said she sent out a survey to her existing community to ask them how they cared for themselves, what products they buy. And I thought that is such a great idea because if you have a community that you engage with, you have conversations with them all the time, and you're thinking about selling them something, of course, it only stands to reason that you want to sell them something they want to buy. But how do you know what they want? It's really not something you think about until
Well,
you have to become an entrepreneur
Well,
who,
you know, from when I heard that, I thought about you, especially
yeah,
when she said, "What did she say? She had 100 pages." And Megan said, "What?" You
yeah,
know, when she said,
200
then I
questions.
thought about you because I said that's what Isabella would do. It would be something comprehensive with like 200 pages of questions, you know, so she could get to the right to what she wanted to find out. I immediately went to you when she said 200 pages. Because I was with Megan, it probably would have been maybe 20 pages. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she asked again, what was the proof point of the business? And I found it interesting that Katie says that she joined an accelerator program, which teaches you how to access the funding for the business. But what was interesting to me, so think about it like this. Megan got Katie to tell us that she has started the business as a blog. And then from starting the business as a blog, she had joined a reputable salon where she worked, learned the craft, and she had developed this community. And when she was ready to open a shop, she didn't just go straight to opening the shop. She had to go to people who knew how to fundraise for businesses. That's where they were talking about how the percentage of funding available for Black female entrepreneurs was abysmally low.
Yeah.
The next question, which Megan asked, which I found quite interesting, was what was it like to have a friend who is a business partner? And I love the truth of Katie's response. She was like, sometimes it's good and sometimes they're bad days.
You know what? I have my best friend is a Leo like I am, and I
Mm,
understood that answer.
completely.
Yes,
Me
I
too.
understood that answer. Yeah. Some days your toes in sync, and some days you're button heads. You know what I'm saying? Yep, because you got two strong personalities. You know what I mean?
Yes, and you're both talented in your own way,
Yep.
which is the way reason why you came together to be business partners in the first place. And you're both Leos.
And I love the way she said, but we were always together in one on the main important points.
Hmm.
That's the key. That's like in a marriage, the same thing. You got to be on one accord on the important points, or you're
Hmm.
not gonna make it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I think Megan was talking about being goal oriented as opposed to being task oriented. So having the bigger picture in mind. That I think she said someone taught her about that, to think about the goal. So where you're going to, as opposed to just being task oriented. And I think that's another gold nugget, which will
Yes.
probably go over people's heads in
Hmm.
this conversation. Like I'm saying, this conversation was full of huge business tips, which, if you're just looking for the personal anecdotes, you will miss the business tips that were being shared
Yeah.
in the conversation because Imagine that you start a business, which a lot of people do, and you just say, "Oh, I'm going to start a salon." Is that the goal?
Well,
It
right.
comes
It's just like you get it started and it's going, but don't just get it started and going. Just like when you get in a car, you get it started and it's going, but where you trying to
going.
get to? You
Yeah,
know, where are
exactly.
you trying to take it to? What is the level that you're trying to get it to, and
Right.
how to get there? You know what I mean? And I like the fact that she planned all the way to not just where you're going to get to in the business level, but when she said, "And I want to plan on selling it
Tell
to
him
start
the
another
business.
chapter. This is not going to
I
be my whole
clap.
life." And then how I'm going to transfer. You know what I mean? I like that she had a plan for, yeah. And then when I sell it, I want to sell it, and I want to start another chapter because I remember how she said she wanted to write. That's another thing she was thinking about doing is write. And once she got through, maybe she would go back to writing or something that of
Yeah.
that nature. So that's I like that too. You know, don't make this like this got to be your end all your life. You can
Mm-hmm.
transition. You know, you can do more
Because
than one
life is
thing,
in
follow more
stages.
than one dream. You know.
Yeah, life is in stages anyway,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes.
So if we don't necessarily plan for the fact that life is in stages, that's why we have such difficulty transitioning from one stage to the other stage because
Yes.
you
Hmm.
don't really recognize. And yeah, this is like I said, huge nuggets being shared
Hmm.
in the podcast. And if you're not listening intently, you
Right.
you're just listening to all the gossipy part. Because
You
it's at
forgot to
this
get
point
more than one.
Megan got distracted again.
It's like a Kendrick Lamar song. You got to listen to two, 3 times for the Easter eggs. You know.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And it's at this point Megan got distracted again and she was like, "Oh, this is so unfair. Is it this person? This is I think
She's
she
like, I got 9 minutes left. That was so cute.
and then Megan asked her what you would do, she would do differently if she had to do it over. And I completely agreed with what Katie said. She was like, experts, those people who come over and tell you that they're experts in this, that, or the other, but you find out that they're just a waste of money.
There's just con artists, really, is what she was trying to say.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't bit no more about what I should do because I should have realized because they'd be doing something instead over here trying to tell me what to do. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, and I love the point, which is another nugget, and which was that they were already financially responsible, and they were able to prove this to the bank, so that when they went to the bank for a loan, it was easy to approve them for the bank because they could show proof of their financial history
Yeah, and collateral and stuff. Yeah. Hmm.
and collateral.
Yeah.
So, and also that one of the benefits, though, after they got the business was that the people who invested in the business, they're people who were invested in her positively, emotionally as well. So
Hmm.
it made it easy to have conversations about what she was wanted to do for the business and retain her autonomy in the business, which I think
Hmm.
was great. Of course, we all know that Megan is one of her investors, so it was like them
Well,
just
it goes back to what she was saying about in the pandemic, how
mm,
they supported each other, how she was doing this different ways to keep her, she was doing stuff at people's houses with a mask and throwing shit
exactly.
so she
Yeah.
could continue with her employees, not have to lay them off. But at the same time, her clients, how can we help you? And she didn't really know how they could help her, so they was thinking of things. And one of them, and several of them, decided they would pay her for a year of services in advance. you know
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
so they were helping each other, so that is the thing I took from that too. They both were being flexible and helping each other.
Yes. And I think there's something to be said for the way she has organically evolved through the journey.
I don't want to veer off the subject, but I want to say this to you. Like I should have said it before. I don't know if I said it to you when we in our conversations. Like I have some notes that of a book that I am going to get around to writing. I think that you should write a book, just like the Duchess of Success did. I think that your life experience is unique, and like you were saying, that you're all over everywhere. I think people can take inspiration of how you pulled yourself up and got yourself together and became stronger and stronger. And
Oh,
I think that there's a story to be told there too one day, whenever you're ready to tell it.
Thank you. It's just, yeah, I think you're right. But this is why I'm so open to conversation. But I realize that it's not everyone who is open to that same type of openness of
Oh
conversation.
no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
But that's not something that I realized immediately. So, but knowing that now, it's great, it's fine, and it's just part of the life experience that we tend to have. But overall, what did you think about the interview? This veer back to where we are.
I loved it. I loved it from the perspective of a black woman because I could
Mm,
understand it. And I was telling you the generational thing was funny
mm,
to me because when she was talking about flat irons, and I didn't know what she talked about till she showed the picture of that iron box with the holes in it for the hot curlers, and I was like, oh, she means a straightening comb. You know what I mean? Because that's what our grandmother called. So it was funny to me, but I enjoyed this episode probably more because of that than the others because I can relate to it even more from
mm.
my life experience. So I enjoyed it a lot.
I think that she just gets better with each episode that she does. And it's really great to have someone who you admire doing things that you can relate to and learn from. Um, being part of the squad would be meaningless, like for me, if there was nothing to learn from Megan. And it's amazing that she's much younger than I am, but yet I'm able to learn so much from her.
Oh yeah, you can learn of all some from all ages. I've learned that.
Mm.
You know, like in the Bible, out of the mouths of babes, you can learn from all
Yes.
ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while to understand that because you think when you get older, no, I'm the elder, but no, you can learn some things from different ages because some people are more mature and more wise beyond
Mm.
years, So
I just say that also to say, because it's really important for me to accountable to myself for it, for whatever it is that I'm doing at this stage of my life. Whereas I never used to think about it that much
mm,
before now. And even from a spiritual perspective, it's just like I have to make sure that I'm not idolizing Harriet Meghan, like putting
yeah,
them first
yeah,
and
yeah.
above God. And
Remember, they're only human. Yeah.
anyway, my lovely, it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Okay. All right.
I think I learned so much from this podcast and I can't wait for the next one.
Okay.
All right, guys, I'm going to be signing off now.
Bye,
That's
Sussex family.
that's all I have for this evening, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. What are you waiting on? So you don't miss any updates. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, this is Wheezy signing off. Peace.
Peace. Bye.